Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our second Treasure Languages event. And this one is, of course, a celebration of International Mother Language Day. Yes, I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you. A lot of work went into what you're about to see today. There's some seats up here in case anybody who needs a seat, and you'll see people, I think, still coming in. These seats are reserved for anyone who needs them. My name's Nadia Cheney. I'm going to be your guide for the next few hours.
Would you say your name one more time?
It's Nadia Cheney. My last name's Cheney. No relation. Yeah. You always got to say that when you come from, in Montreal, it's no problem, but when I come here, I have to say that. So I was here for the first Treasure Language event, and I was so actually moved and changed by it. Can I just see a show of hands? Was anyone here for the last one? Yeah. What I noticed at that last event for myself was, I'm an Indo-Canadian. My parents are from India. My parents speak two different languages, and they're also from two different religious communities. And so when they met and they fell in love, in order for them to get married in a good way, they moved first to Minnesota and then to Saskatchewan in Canada. And they never taught us their languages. They already had a common language, English, and they just used it. And when I came here for the Treasure Language event, and I saw all these different treasure languages and mother languages together, it was so emotional for me, not just to feel, what I wanted to do with my own, to find my own mother language and my father language, but also to sense the synergy of these languages together, the possibility of what it is when all these amazing languages are together and their whole self is welcome. And in that room last time, I felt this emotion and this energy and almost like a wave. And I was so impressed and moved that I had to come back for this next one. I'm really grateful to be here. And I know that this afternoon, each of you will have that chance to experience something unique, something that we don't usually get to engage, which is the fullness of languages that not one person in this room will understand everything that gets said today. And that the magic of that, the magic of not understanding and of still being together and being human together in that difference. So today the plan is we're gonna have a little small practice session here together. It'll take about 5 minutes to get ready to not understand, to get ready to be open and just listen and just be together. And then we're gonna have 6 storytellers. And you can just take that however it comes, just let it come to you. And then we're gonna have a break. And in that time you can mingle and meet the storytellers, meet each other. And then we'll have something called a conversation cafe. And the conversation cafe, some people will stay. It's really geared for treasure language speakers, and everyone is welcome. And that will be a chance to talk about, well, why treasure languages? What are we doing? What does it mean for them to be together? So the first part is sort of the listening part. The break is the mingling part, and then there's the digging in. So our goals for our time together, we've got about 4 hours together, or 2 hours if you just stay for the stories. And our first goal is really just to celebrate and connect. And so, it's a chance for us to recognize the treasure that we have that's often buried in our day-to-day life. And as we kind of meet, pass each other in a very functional way, maybe in public, maybe on the bus or at school, this is a chance to actually say, well, how are we different? And just enjoy that and celebrate it. And then the other goal that we have is to actually deepen or strengthen the muscle to be able to understand each other across our language differences. So to really build the strength in our humanity to be able to be our whole selves together. So those are our two goals: celebrate and connect, and then strengthen this muscle of understanding. Now, in order to do that, if you imagine that that's like a sort of a point in the distance on the horizon, we need to just make a couple of agreements, like ways to be together, that are maybe a little different than a normal show that you would be at, where you would just kind of consume or absorb what's going on. The first one is, and I've mentioned this already, is to listen, to appreciate rather than understand. The second one is to accept translations as they are. So really to know that translation is kind of an impossibility on one hand and a huge gift on the other. So to just let it be, like even if you speak the same language and you're like, no, that's not what that means. Kind of just flow with that, let that go, and just be grateful for the translations as they are. Also, if you're sitting with someone and you've come to interpret or to translate for them, feel free. Don't feel like you're being rude or you have to wait until the speaker stops talking. Just translate for that person as it feels right. And the third agreement is to celebrate the difference, not just in our languages, but actually in our points of view. So knowing that all of the stories that we're going to hear today come loaded with a point of view, a cultural perspective, and a personal perspective. And so to understand that everybody in this room is going to have to do a little bit of shifting to be able to celebrate all of the multiplicity of who we are in this space. So just be ready to do that shifting as you hear the stories. You might hear something that doesn't jive with your culture or with your religion or with your political views. And just say, what is it like for me to open space for that to exist simultaneous with my own opinion? And then the last one is to lift each other up. So just, but maybe if you need to, but really listening for those voices, in the inner voices that put other people down, but also the ones that put yourself down, even as a listener, even as an audience member. Sometimes those voices come up, like for me, it was really strong last time. Why don't I know my own languages? Do I belong here? Did I do a good job as a performer? Am I? All these kinds of voices will come up. So just doing the work to lift up and to bring light into those places and to allow that emotional territory to be the way it is. So if you can do those 4 things in order to reach our goals, which are to listen to appreciate, celebrate difference, accept the translations as they are, and try to lift yourself and each other up. If you can do that, could you just clap your hands on the count of 3? Or many times. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, great. So this is how we're going to be together. So let me just see who's in the room. Let's see who are some of the languages, the treasure languages, which are small languages that are still spoken in the world today. So that's how we think of a treasure language. Can we just see by hands? And feel free to turn around and look if you're in the front. Who are the Tigrinya speakers? Representing on this side. Okay, good. What about, do we have any men speakers in the house? We've got a few. All right, thank you. Yeah, you can give some applause for the small languages. That was for both Tigrinya and men. What about Hawaiian? Do we have any Hawaiian speakers? Do we have anyone who speaks Shona? How about Dapin? And Chui. Do we have any Chui speaker in the house? Yeah. So those are our program languages. Those are the languages you're going to hear on stage today. What else do we have? Are there any other treasure languages in the room today? Small languages that are still spoken today. Yes?
Afrikaans.
Afrikaans. Thank you. Great. So this is going to be an amazing event. Like I said, no one's going to understand everything that happens here today. So we're going to practice right now. We're going to practice not understanding. It's just going to take a minute or two, and it's going to be like this. I'm going to ask you, first I'll tell you, then we'll practice. So first I'm going to ask you to think of a question that's sort of important to you in your life right now, any question. So if I was to think, I'd be like, when am I going to start learning Gujarati? That might be my question. Then, once everybody has a question, you're going to find a partner. And that partner, ideally, is someone you don't know, but it's okay if it's someone you know. And then you're gonna go to that person and you're going to try to use body language to ask your question. Now, how am I going to ask a question? Like, when am I going to learn Gujarati? So I just have to kind of mess with it and fake it as best as I can. So you mind if I try it on you, Stephen? And then Stephen's going to try to answer me in body language, but he doesn't necessarily know what I'm asked, right? Okay. So I'm going to be like,
Cheap little Stephen.
and then you switch. Then your partner will ask their question and you answer it with body language. Do you have any questions about what we're going to do to practice not understanding each other with openness? Okay, so first think of your question. It doesn't have to be like the most important question, just a question. And then find yourself a partner. And you've got like about 90 seconds to make the whole thing happen. If you have questions, just come and ask. If you're done, can you just give me like a look? Give me a significant look if you're done. All right, everybody. I'm trying to figure out if you're done. Some people really speak with their hands, so I can't actually tell if you're done or not. So now that exactly how you had to listen to your partner, how you had to open up and try to understand and also let go and know that you couldn't quite understand, but that you still had something to offer them. And that you were still, that vibe, that's how you're going to be for the next 2 hours. You're going to hold that. So right now, we're going to start with our storytelling. I'm very happy to introduce Kumu Kawi, who, Kumu means teacher. And Kumukawi is a respected teacher of Hawaiian music and dance at Stanford University. And she's going to officially open our event tonight. So please this afternoon, give her a very warm round of applause.
Aloha mai kako. At first I would like to make a little correction. I actually teach the Hawaiian language class at Stanford and assist the students in music and dance, but that's really on the side. So I just wanted to clear that. Before we start with our opening, I just wanted to make sure that everybody has their phones off. And we can kind of quiet ourselves and open our hearts and our minds to receive, like you said, the many voices of our ancestors, because those are the languages that we'll be speaking. And also for us to be mindful that we're in this area of our Ohlone people, and I've been given the honor to do the opening on their behalf this afternoon. So I just wanted to acknowledge our Ohlone ancestors. In beginning our opening, my daughter is actually going to share in that space, and my granddaughter. So there's 3 generations of us present today, and we speak Hawaiian at home. So my granddaughter is learning Hawaiian. And my daughter was actually part of the Hawaiian immersion programs. So that's where her language comes from, and mine, Tutu, my grandparents spoke, so that's how I learned. And also I'm one of those people that likes to make things interactive so that you feel like you're a part of everything. So our first chant that we're gonna do, you can follow her and we're gonna go back and forth. So when she claps, you're gonna clap, and it'll be a 2 clap. The second mele, so our first mele is to do just a clearing of space. Our second chant that we're gonna do is to call on the higher vibrations of our ancestors for space and everything that you have brought with you as well. So we're gonna acknowledge that in our second mele. And with that, we're going to have you just follow along with us on our timing. And the third mele, I know you're like, what, 3? Because when we do things, there's certain things that we have to acknowledge and in a certain order. So our third mele we're going to do is something that I actually wrote, and it acknowledges our place as Native Hawaiians, as guests in this space, on this aina. And it particularly acknowledges Mount Diablo, and on that. He mu oya, he mu. He mu na moe ino ino na moe moea na puno uno na haumia. He mu oya, he mu. Eli eli. Noa. Ya e. Noa kono. Emu oya, emu. Emu na boy no na boy ya na puno na oya. Emu oya, emu. El Noa. Ya Noa onwa. Emu oya, emu. Emu na boy no na boy ya na Emu oya, emu. Eli eli, Noa. Ya Noa ona. E ala kahiki ku. E ala kahiki moi. E ala ke a kapanuku. E ala ke a kapalan. E ia kabo ala no e kalila e ona ala kapakula ala ni ala na iula. E ala ala e kahiki ku. E ala e kahiki moi. E ala e ke a papalu. E ala e ke a papalan. E ia ka ho ala no e kanila e ona ala a papakula kanila na ilunei. E ala oi. E ala e kahiki ku. E ala e kahiki moi. E ala e ke a papalu. E ala e ke a papalan. E ia ka ho ala no e kanila e ona ala a papakula kanila na ilunei. E ala oi. Kila kila o hami unai gaveki I kono hanae lama kuyo ya po Walia kau ikapolie kau wanoi
My story is entitled Temeleno Kabohi. It means Kabohi song, and this is Kabohi. And we're just going to share. So we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to do it in Khoi, and she's going to translate on the English. And then I guess we're going to start. We're just going to go with the flow.
Can you tell I'm not a white person? Eia no ke kamalani kama aloha kama iwalani.
Here, indeed, is the Heavenly One, the Beloved, the Favored.
Hanaui ka aina ka puolone, pu'uho nua momona one ulei.
You indeed are the Heavenly One, the Beloved, the Favored, born on sacred Ohlone land, a haven fertile and vast.
O ka pā kona nea ka mahina hoku.
The light,
O mona la'a ke a malama.
the light of Hoku shines bright, brings joy, lightens the spirit.
Hele a ina ke kupuna, kau po'ohiwi kau I ka hano.
an adornment of the elders, one upon their shoulders, honored.
He pua ahi ilani, I ikua I alohi I poi
Hiilani's flower, carried on the back, embraced in the bosom, cherished.
Le 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 kuhou poi ka oli oli. Ke I ke kumaka malohi lohi.
My heart leaps for joy at the sight of your twinkling eyes.
Every morning. Pula ma ia e ke aloha aloha. Ke aloha e I poi
Surrounded with love, treasured by awe, let it be known of Viviana Kahaipo, Kavohi Kapulani, Manono Kavahine Kumana. Indeed, it is so.
Puana I ke ia melelo. Viviana Kahaipo, Kavohi Kapulani, Manono Kavahine Kumana. Eia la ola. Mahalo.
Does anyone have questions about the story for Kumu Kauai? Yeah, we have time probably for one or two questions if you'd like to ask.
So,
Repeat the question.
oh,
Just the question was, is it a call and response format in the song, or was that just part of the performance with your daughter?
so that's actually part of the performance because it would have been done in its entirety. But we do have a type of chanting style that is called a kahoa, and it's done in a back and forth, a call and response. So we have a lot of those. Thank you.
Yes, one more question.
I'm curious if this is a blessing song, because in our culture we also have a version calling song that is not
So you're wondering if it's a blessing song, and in your culture, what's your culture?
it's Mian.
In Mian, you also have like a blessing song for the baby.
So in our culture, we have traditionally we'll do a name song that honors and a lot of times we hear it in reference to our royalty. So we'll have songs that chronicle their birth. So that was actually that type of song that I did for her.
Thank you. Great. Can we have another round of applause?
Mahalo.
Hello. Thank you so much. Yes. For the people who've just come in, there are seats up here in the front. We're saving a few for people who need them as well. But there's seats over here. You're welcome to just come and fill in. Our next storyteller is Audrey Coty. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Okay,
That's very typical amongst Shona women. Like when we celebrate, when there's a wedding, we just really late. So yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah, my story is from a language that's spoken by 82% of the population in Zimbabwe. I know that sounds like it's a big population, but Zimbabwe is such a small country in Southern Africa, so that makes Shona a very small language. My story is entitled Mutomati. I'm sure you can see from the flyers that you got. I'm going to try to engage you guys, and I'll teach you how to say the response. So try and say this with me. Zefunde. One more time. Zefunde. So, Paivapo. 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 The guys at the back are not responding. Paivapo. Okay, good. Thank you. You guys are awesome. All right. So, this story, I was told by my grandmother when I was still very young. It's traditional in Zimbabwe that when people are done with having dinner at night, we sit around the fireplace and then the grandmothers tell stories to their grandchildren. About 20 grandchildren will be sitting listening to the grandmother tell the story. So I was one of the 20 or so who were listening to the story that my grandmother was telling. Yeah, so the name of the story is Mtomati, which I think means tomato. I think it's derived from tomato, right? I know it sounds like tomato. Yeah. So that was a name of the mythical person in the story that I'm going to tell you. But this name was not supposed to be spoken by anybody else. So don't try to say this name because you'll see what happens as I tell the story. I'm the only one who can say the name. Do not say Mutomati. The Shona name for folklore is Ngano. So Ngano means folklore. So these are the stories that aren't true, but then they have like moral values behind them, or they teach something about the culture of the people of that certain place. So again, I'm gonna say Paivapo, and I need you to respond. So Paivapo. Paivapo. Okay, so I'm going to tell the story in Shona. I think this is where what Nadia was saying, that you guys are gonna get confused, and yeah. I'm gonna tell it in Shona, and then you guys are gonna try and understand, and then I'll tell you the meaning of the story later on. Okay. Paivapo. Paiva nemwe murume ainzi Mutomati. Murume uyu aigara musango kure nekwaigara nevamwe vanhu vese mudunhu rekwachimanga. Murume uyu aita basa rekutema huni. Paiva nevamwe mai vaiva nevana vavo vaviri vasikana. Mai avo vakati, ndoda kumbobika sadza, rega ndine ndinotuma vana vangu vaende vanotsvaga huni. Mai vai vakadana vana vavo vaviri vakati, endai munotsvaga huni. Vana vai vakafamba vachitsvaga huni. Asi vana vai vakashaya huni. Vana vai vakaramba vachingofamba vachitsvaga huni, asi vakashaya huni. Ndobva varamba vachingofamba vakati, tinofanira kudzokera kumba tawana huni dzedu. Ndobva vanzwa murume aitema huni, achitema huni musango. Vana vai vakafamba kusvika vasvika papane murume aitema huni. Ndobva vati, huni dzenyu dzakanaka, toda kutengawo huni dzenyu. Vana vai vakatenga huni, asi murume akati, mukabvunzwa kunzi matenga huni dzikubva kunani, musataure kuti tatengeserwa naMutomati. Munongoti tadzitengeserwa nemurume anga achitema huni musango. Vana vai vakati, aiwa, tatenda, takuenda hedu. Vana vai vakafamba vachidzokera kumba. Ndobva vasanganawo nemumwe muchemberi aitofambawo achitotsvaga huni. Muchemberi uyu akavhunza akati, vazukuru, huni dzenyu dzakanaka, madzitenga kupi? Vana vayo ndobva vati, mwana waye ndobva vati, tatenga huni idzi kubva kune murume anga ari musango anga achitema huni anonzi Mutomati. Mwana waye achibva afa. Mbuya vaye vakashamisika vakati, mwana uyu afa nezita rekuti Mutomati. Naivo mbuya vaye vachibva vafa. Uye mwana waye akatanga kubata musoro akati, yowe, ko vanhu ava vangofa nezita rekuti Mutomati kochi, asi haana ake kuzvitaura. Mwana waye akamhanya akasvika kwakwina amai vake achichema. Mwana uyu akati, amai, munin'ina wangu afa nezita rekuti Mutomati. naye achibva atofawo. Mai vai vakabata musoro vakatanga kuchema vakati yawe kani mwana wangu afa nezita rekuti Mutomati. Naivo mai vai vachibva vafa. Zvisinewo murume wavo ari padhuze navo. Ndobva murume amhanya kunodaidza vakuru vemudunhu rekwachimanga. Vakati uyai muone zvaitika kumba kwangu. Mwana wangu, vana vangu vaviri, mukadzi wangu, vese vafa nezita rekuti Mutomati. Baba pavaiudza vakuru vedunhu riye, naivo vakabva vafawo. Vanhu vese vakati ko vanhu ava vari kungofa nezita rekuti Mutomati kwakanaka. Saka mumwe nemumwe wese paaitaura kuti Mutomati, naye aibva atongofawo. Namambo vacho vakabva vatofawo nekungoti Mutomati. Asi kwakasara murume mumwe chete akati inini handisi kuzotaura zita rekuti Mutomati kusvika ndamuwana Mutomati iye. Murume uyo akafamba achitsvaga ndobva amushaya Mutomati uyu. Asi akati handisi kumira kutsvaga Mutomati. Murume uyo akafamba achimutsvaga Mutomati. Ndobva azosvika pane painzwa munhu aitema huni. Akanzwa munhu uyo achingotema huni, achitema huni. Akati ndinenge ndamuwana munhu wandiri kutsvaga. Murume uyo akatanga kunyahwaira nekumashure kwaMutomati uye. Ndobva asvika pedyo naMutomati ndobva ati ndakubata Mutomati. Naye murume uyo achibva afa. Tatenda. So I'm going to give you a brief summary of what I was saying so that you guys understand what I was actually saying. Alright, so the story is about a mythical man called Mutomati, whose name, as I mentioned before, was not to be spoken by anybody else except by himself. So this man was chopping firewood, right, in the forest. He used to stay in the forest, he did stay in the village of Chimanga where everybody else stayed. So he was chopping firewood, and that's how he just used to live. So there was one woman who was married and had 2 children, 2 daughters, that she sent to look for firewood, to buy firewood, because she wanted to cook sadza. Sadza is like the staple food of Zimbabwe. It's made from cornmeal. It's a very simple thing to make, but we eat it with other vegetables or meat, anything you want to eat it with. So she sent her daughters to go and look for firewood, but they couldn't find any firewood anyway. So until they came and heard the sound of someone chopping firewood. Then they approached the person who was chopping the firewood, and then they managed to buy firewood from this Mutomati guy. But the guy told them that, do not mention my name to anybody else. But he did not say why not. So the children were like, oh, thank you. We will not say anything. And then they walked and they met an old lady who was also looking for firewood. The old lady asked, where did you buy your firewood from? And one of the daughters said, oh, a man called Mutomati sold the firewood to us. And then she dropped dead. She died. Now this old lady was shocked, like, how come she just dropped dead after saying Mutomati? And as she was also saying that, she died. And one of the child ran home to tell the parents what had happened. And then she met the mother and the father. They were sitting, waiting for the firewood so that they could prepare their meal. And she was wailing, Yahweh! Just a wail, to say that her sibling had died because she had said Mutomati. And just after saying the name, she also died. The mother also cried over her 2 children who had just died. And she she explained what had happened to the father. And as she was explaining, you guessed it, she died. Now the father ran and he was really worried because he could sense that something was wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. So he had to gather all the people of the Chimanga village, including the king, to tell them what had happened to his family. And as he was narrating the story, just after saying the name Mutomati, he died. Now everybody was also mesmerized, was shocked, like, why are these people dying just after saying the name Mutomati? And as each and every one of them were asking each other why they were saying, why the people were dying, each and every one of them was dying, right? Including the king, except for one man who vowed to himself never to say the name Mutomati. He said he would not say the name Mutomati until he found that man. And he was so sure you'd find the man because obviously Mutomati was going to be the only person remaining in the village because everybody else had died, right? So this man took his quest to look for Mutomati. He walked, he searched, he walked, he searched, didn't find anyone, until one day he came across the sound of someone chopping firewood, and he knew that he had found him. And then he approached Mutomati from behind. And as he approached, he said, "Ya ndakubata Mutomati," which literally means, "Yeah, I have caught you, Mutomati." And you know what happened? He died. So Mutomati was the only person who remained in Chimanga village. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions about the story for Audrey? I think there might be some questions. We'll start here and we'll come around. Yes.
So what's the moral of the story?
So the question is, what's the moral of the story?
All right. Okay, so this story really doesn't have a moral as such, but then it teaches something about religion in the Shona culture. There were people, I'm sure it's written on the flyers again, that there were people called Mashikiro. So these people were spirit mediums, so to say. They're the people who communicated with ancestors, and ancestors would speak to God, because the Shona people believed in one God whom they called Mwari. So these people would help the normal people to communicate and understand what was happening. So let's say there was a famine, the Mashikiros, the ancestral spirits, which I think Mutomati was one of them, were the ones who would help to make rain, because there were rain-making ceremonies in the case of a drought. So people would consult these people to know what's happening in their area.
Thank you. Well, we can take maybe two more questions. Yeah, right here. What year did it take place?
I really don't know, but I think way long back before. I guess people were still living in caves that time, because they had to look for firewood to make fire to prepare their food. So I'm not really sure of the actual year, but yeah, way long back.
Good, thank you. And one more question. Yes, right here.
It's a short series. What is the name of the language in the language itself? And were you doing, your grandmother doing it, or were you interpreting it as you would?
Okay, so I was my grandmother, and then you were my grandchildren. And so there's a dialect in Shona called Zezuru. So this story was told in Zezuru, which is like one of the dialects of the Shona language, which is spoken by most people in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Can we have another round of applause for Audrey, please? Thank you so much. It's amazing, right? Well, I told you. Our next storyteller is Asantewa Darko.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Asantewa, as Nadia said. I'm a Ghanaian, and I speak one of the numerous Ghanaian languages. I speak Asante Twi. So basically, this story was told by my mom. My mom is a very dramatic lady, and you'll get to see a bit of her in me as I try to interpret a very interesting story. So this story is basically about this woman and her husband and a help they brought from the village. I'm going to say the story in Twi, then I'll give you the full interpretation afterwards. Meya bofa ketwa no de biara na me mame okacha me nua amane me anansesem a me beto ene no se no kro se nya no kro me de hye unsem oba bi ye fe na oba ya na wa ware oba ma bia ye fe ni kofi omo na omo nyima de biara ubehu se oba ya na otina se a na wa ye no nyema Debia, Uben say, or Snassi, now I am in Yama. Now we will say another Obabiso, Yafen and Nanaya, now we will say Nanaya, or Pipan in Yama, or Yenny Gianni, or Shishan in Yama. We will say Nanaya, or Pipan in Yama, or Yenny Yama, Obisan say, eh, Nanaya, and it's not Debia, or ya dear, not Obaya, unto me, ya dear. Wait, dear, I asked them. Assembly say, Kofi. waware ne yere obaya ontumi nye aduane. Aduane no na nana ya na oye aduane no. Enti ubehu se Kofi ne dona oma obaya no na elko nana ya nche. Adenti na odono ko if you say obaya ontumi nye aduane. Anansisema mebeka no se no kario se nyo enye no kario medeshe obiense. Pata, say you want it in there, say you want. Pata, say you want it in there, say you want. Say you want it in there, say you want it in there, say you want it in there, say. Pata, say you want it in there, say you. Pata, say you want it in there, say you want. Say you want it in there, say you want it in there, say you want it in there, say you want. So basically, I come from a very traditional Ghanaian family, and the story was basically about my mother telling my older sister Amma and I that if we do not learn how to cook, we'll lose our husbands. I know in our contemporary society that might be seen as sexist, but in a Ghanaian society, that's the truth. If you do not know how to cook, your husband will be stolen by someone who knows how to cook. And so I was just talking to my friend Vicentia over there, she's also Ghanaian, and we're talking about how, like, when we are watching Nigerian movies or Ghanaian movies, and there's a scene on TV where the woman's wife is just lazy. So I was speaking about how Obaya just sits there, applies her makeup or watches TV. And my mother will always comment and be like, that's going to happen to you if you just go sit there. Your husband will go one day, so you must learn how to cook. And that's basically my story. And does anyone have any questions?
What questions do you have about the story?
What was she cooking?
What was she cooking?
So it depends on the day. So it could be, I guess since she is an Ashanti, it'll be fufu. So fufu is made out of cassava and yams. So cassava is like our staple dish. So yeah, fufu.
Thank you. What else? Yes.
What was the song about?
So the song is not really related to the story, but the song is just like, it's just to keep the audience awake.
Did it work? Is there one more question about the story?
Oh no, I mean,
The question was, are you married? No. And one more here?
In your community, is there any story or song saying the reverse, like if you don't learn this for a male, you're gonna lose your wife?
Oh, is there any reverse question for the male? If you don't learn this, you might lose your wife.
well, there should be because the Ashantis we are like a matrilineal society, so there's more emphasis on the woman. You don't inherit from your father, so you inherit from your mother's family. So there should be, because the kids do not technically, your kids are not for your husband, they're for your mother. So I'm not my father's child, I'm my mother's child. Yeah.
Wow. Another round of applause for Asantewa. Our next storyteller is Faye Saili, and her story will be interpreted by her daughter, Tan Saili.
Hi everyone. My mom and I came from, Redding, California to be here today with you guys. And just a little bit about our background. We're from Thailand and we're of the Mien community. And we came to the United States from the refugee camps of Thailand in 1989. Okay. Let's see. So the greeting that we like to teach you in Mien is, how are you guys doing tonight? And that sounds a little bit like this. Imuan mabua yam nong ye phai. And when you hear her say that, if you're doing well, you respond, yam long ye. Can you guys try to repeat that? Yam long ye, that means yes, I am well, or yes, we are well.
Ô y buồn bùa ya chung ta na nhẹ miền ta tao sẽ lộn nhẹ xa.
Yam long ye. Great. We're really happy to hear you guys are doing well.
Y buồn ye ta na sẽ con thảo y bùa nhẹ yêu miền câu.
Tonight, I'm here to tell you a folklore in Mien.
Tiêu câu sẽ con thảo bùa miền nhẹ y chiều hòa. Mà chiều sẽ con dấu hay nhung dấu.
Tonight, while listening, I would like you guys to listen for two Mien phrases. The first phrase is why, and she just said it. It's zhou han yung zhou. So can you guys try to say that? Zhou han yung zhou, and that's like why? Why did you do that, or why did you do it? And
Tí nhẹ chiều sẽ con bê.
the second word is flat, which is bay. She just said it. So can you guys repeat that? Bay. Okay, very good. You guys are great Mien learners.
Yam na mi nga ye con thảo tiêu câu
So now I will begin the story.
Lô nói mà nó hiểu con sang pa.
Once upon a time, there was a bird who cried out, "The arrow spears, the arrow spears."
Hét chủ chung thiếu.
It scared a reindeer who ran really fast.
Thiếu mình đi chủ sộp như loang chủ tăng.
He ran so fast, he kicked over a squash's vine.
Tăng mình sộp giang mình bỏ chủ xa như con.
As he kicked the vine, the squash broke off and it rolled down and stumbled onto a sesame plant.
Xa chủ kinh mình dinh mình bịa chủ nọ chê nhiễm chinh.
The sesame plant fell over and the sesame seed bounced into the eye of a wild chicken.
Nọ chê chủ môn tài buồn chiếu.
In pain, the wild chicken swept up an ant.
Chiếu chủ phá mình tàn chủ bóp như chê đuôi.
And the ant flew up to the sky and landed and stung a squirrel's scrotum.
Bóp môn tài chủ bùm kiếu đó.
Out of pain, the squirrel dropped his fruit.
Kiếu đó dị tài chủ bó chủ sạp xô nghe con bê mình.
The fruit fell down and hit a centipede flat on his head.
Sạp xô chủ buồm tua chủ mình cố chán.
The centipede was so mad, he went to report this to the authorities.
Chán ta thảo.
The authorities came to investigate.
Chủ đại biếu
So they asked the fruit,
biếu mà chủ nhung đó.
Fruit, why did you fall?
Chạy cần ở đó, bóp bù nghe.
Oh, I did not want to fall down. The squirrel dropped me.
Bóp mà chủ nhung bùm kiếu đó.
Squirrel, why did you drop the fruit?
Bóp chủ con. Chạy ở bùm, chiếu tàn như chê đuôi môn hải.
The squirrel said, "Oh, I did not mean to fall. Let it go. It's just the ant stung my scrotum, so I dropped it."
Chiếu mà chủ nhung cái nái tàn.
Ant, why did you sting him in his testes?
Chạy cần ở, chiếu cái đi đau, nó chê buồn yê pháo.
Oh, I did not want to come up here. It's just the wild chicken swung me up.
Chê mà chủ nhung cái nái buồn.
Chicken, why did you swing him up?
Ôm chỉ ỏi buồn xa phía nhân chi muôn tài.
Oh, I didn't want to, but the sesame went in my eye.
Xa cho nhung biển nó che nhân chi.
Sesame, sesame, why did you go into the chicken's eye?
Ôm chỉ cần ỏi bìa sụp bó chủ nhé con khiên tài. Dĩ mi bìa chủ.
Oh, I did not mean to, but the squash knocked me over and I bounced in his eye.
Sụp mà sụp cho nhung cần ai bó xa nhé con.
Squash, squash, why did you bump into this sesame stem?
Ôm chỉ cần ỏi bó chuông đi chủ nhé loang tàng yếm hay yếm.
Oh, I did not want to knock him over, but the reindeer came and kicked my vine and I fell off.
Chuông cho nhung đi sụp nhé loang.
Reindeer, reindeer, why did you kick the squash's vine?
Mà nôm nó con sang pa hét chủ yết thiếu.
Well, there was this bird crying out, the arrow spears, and I was so terrified, I ran as fast as I could.
Nó cho nhung hiểu con sang pa.
Bird, why did you cry out? The arrow spear.
Nó mà nhung hòa con chán tổ cho chén nhìn đồ chén nhìn chang.
And the bird had no answer, and so the authorities took him and they hung him by his neck.
Y chán nó xuất xế tài, chiếc nóm nó chang thao.
And now when you see birds, that's why they have long necks. So just a quick survey. Did you guys hear the two words, the Y and the flat? Yeah, some of you guys? Okay. So she will tell you guys what the moral of the story is.
Nôm câu nó sẽ con thảo bế thảo hang bùa y chả miền bế thảo hát tao ở xe tủ.
So the moral of the story is we are all pretty much the same, and it applies to everyone.
Dầu hang nhú xe chủ ham lộn mặn dầu mặn con dầu ta tăng con dầu tổng tài con chà hòa ta hét chủ miền chám mà xì hang y chẳng tiêu câu.
So our words and our actions are very important, and we must have meaning and intent behind them. And if we don't and we're careless with it, it will end up just like the bird in this story, in trouble.
Leng ching yết chung y muốn tụ tận nai quang mà vui yết chung.
Oh, she wants to thank everyone for having us here, and she's happy to be here.
Do you have any questions about the story?
Right here. Who are the authorities?
Who are the authorities?
There's no specific authorities, just the authorities.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, right there.
I have a question for the translator. I was wondering if there are any words that are really difficult for you to translate into English because it speaks to the larger cultural values.
Are there any words that are difficult to translate into English because they speak to the larger cultural values?
That don't translate.
That wouldn't translate.
It's usually, from my experience, it's the other way around. We have like one word to mean a lot of meanings, and when I'm interpreting or translating English to Mian, usually we lack the Mian word for the English word. So I find it the reverse. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there one more question? Yeah, it's right there. What country was it from?
So the Mian people, we don't really have our own country. We're kind of scattered around. We're from Laos, but you can find us in Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Burma. but we're originally the Yao people of China.
Yes, a big round of applause for Faye and Penny, please. Now, you might be wondering who's behind all this. So we're going to have the leaders of this Treasure Language Project come and just say a few words about the project itself. So Stephen Bird and Robin Perry.
This is probably good. Hi. Thanks for coming, everybody. So it's really a gift to see you all here and to have heard all of these stories that we've heard so far. I'm really grateful to the folks who have come to share their stories with us. For me, this project, we're the Aikuma Project, and it's really brought me a new kind of education. We'll tell you a little bit about it. But I just want to say I've had the opportunity to go to meet members of lots of different communities in the Bay Area, particularly the Mien and the Eritrean communities, and learn about the incredible work that folks are doing to promote their languages. And it has really changed my view of Oakland and how I see the world here. There's many, many, many communities that we have a lot to learn from, and that in our daily lives we don't get to hear from very often. So I'm glad you all are taking the opportunity to hear from folks and hear their stories and hear a little bit more about their cultures. This is something that's possible for each of you to do by asking questions, by being curious, by going into places that you're uncomfortable and finding out a little bit more about our neighbors here. The Bay Area is full of these treasures. So I'll turn it over to Stephen.
Like Robin, I'm delighted to see so many people here. It's a bit of a dream come true to come up with a concept for a new kind of storytelling event together and see people come. So thank you so much. So I'm a linguist, and one of the things linguists get to do is to travel the world, go to remote villages and record some of the thousands of languages that are still spoken today, and we call those treasure languages. There's about 7,000 languages in the world, and you might know that 90 to 95% of those languages aren't even written. So they're passed down orally and have an uninterrupted tradition of oral transmission through storytelling. Meanwhile, in places like Oakland and Berkeley, people are rediscovering storytelling and thinking it's something new. So we'd have thought it rather obvious to put these two things together, right? As a linguist, though, going to those remote places, one of the things we've been trying to do, many of us, urgently, is to record as much as we can of these languages while they are still spoken and get them translated. And that's an urgent task. But it's really difficult to get people interested in it because they don't see that their language matters anymore. When I come to an urban place in the city, back from a place like that, a place where people really connect with their environment, their land, they really read the space that they're in. They're in their present location in a way that I don't really know how to be in my location. When I come back to an urban environment and everyone's striving to some future, we don't really know what it is, and there's an anxiety there. And I'm thinking, what can we do to change that, to bring these two things together? And that's what's really the thinking behind what we're experiencing today.
So the Aikuma Project is, Stephen and I work to celebrate oral cultures in the midst of our urban lives. And we're finding that lots of communities are already doing this in a lot of ways, so we want to support that work. This storytelling is a way of possibly doing that. We'd like to do other things. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so in connection with that, we're asking ourselves, how could we actually bring about a cultural change in a place like Oakland so that people would really appreciate the linguistic diversity that exists here. So probably this involves a change in myself as well as others. For me, when I hear a foreign language, part of me wants to say, you know, I'm kind of irritated. Why aren't you speaking English already? I want to understand. Let's create a real shift and celebrate that diversity, be comfortable in a place where we don't understand, see what we can actually get from what they say and from how they use their body, and just feel really comfortable. Could we actually engineer a social change? That's the question. And one part of this is that we've created an app. And the app is called Aikuma as well, and it's available for Android. And it's described briefly in the program notes on the 3rd page. So if you have an Android phone, you might like to try it. It's basically for this translation phrase by phrase. If you liked what you saw with a child and parent doing translation and want to try it at home, you could do that with an app. I think that's all for now.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Stephen and Robin. We have two more stories this afternoon. The next one is going to be told by Simrat Solomon and interpreted by Fevan Hedru. Round of applause, please.
ሰላም ከመይ ውዕልኩም እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን say response እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን okay good afternoon everyone okay can you practice ከመይ ውዕልኩም your response እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን that means is thanks God I'll ask you good afternoon ከመይ ውዕልኩም እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን okay thank you good afternoon everyone my name is Simrat I'm from Eritrea which is East Africa I speak Tigrinya I'm going to tell the story about sheep goats as well as fox why I'm telling you this story it reminded me my childhood memory most of Eritrean story we call Tsuntsoi we got from our grandparents. They teach us every night and then after they teach us, we share our friends' neighbors. Like sometimes if the story is scary, we get story like if the story is fun, we want to hear more and more. So yeah, one thing I'll tell is like our grandparents, they don't teach us like, instead of teaching us direct, don't do, be smart, work hard, they teach us by making story that we call Tsuntsoi. So I'll tell you in Tigrinya, Fevan will be interpreted in English. So the name of the story is, I told you already, like in English, sheep, goats, as well as fox. In Tigrinya, du'unan, t'elen, wakharyan.
So those are the words you're gonna guys keep hearing it. So a ship is du'ul. It's actually a bigger ship. So it's du'ul, and then a goat is el, and then a fox is wahara. So here for these words. So once upon a time there were farmers who were so selfish.
ንሰበይቱ ከም ዝበላ እዞም ዱዕልን ጤልን ካብ ዝገዛ ኣርሒቕና ንስበቆም
So he spoke to his wife and he said, let's send this a sheep and goat away from the house.
ምክንያቱ ብዙሕ ስለ ዝበልዑን ዝሰትዩን የኽስሩና ኣለዉ
Because they eat a lot, so and then we're not using anything for them, so we should send them away.
ምክንያቱ እንተረኣኽቦም ካብ ጥቕሞም ጉድኣቶም ይበዝሕ
Because as I see, there is more disadvantage than advantage that we can get from them.
ሽዑ በጊዕ ነቶም ስድራ ማለት እዮም ንበጊዕን ንድዕንን ክወፁ ካብቲ ገዛ ሓቢሮሞም
So the husband and the wife told the sheep and the goat to go away from the house.
ሽዑ ድዕልን ጤልን ካብቲ ገዛ ለቆታ ሒዞም ጀሚሮም ጉዕዞም
So as the ship and goat go out from the house, they brought this thing called leota. It's like a bag made of leathers we usually use back home.
ሽዑ ተጓዒዞም ርሑቕ ከይዶም ደኺሞም ኣብ መንገዲ እንዳኸዱ ከለዉ ርእሲ ወኻርያ ረኺቦም
So as their journey began, they keep walking. After a while, they found a head of a fox.
ሽዑ ድዑል ነቲ ርእሲ ወኻርያ ኣልዕል ኣቢሉ ኣብ ሳንዱቕ ኣምጥ ኣቢሎ
So the ship grabbed the big head of the fox and then he just grabbed it and then he put it in his bag.
ኣታ ድዑል ሓወይ እንታይ ጌርናካ ደኺምና ከለና ስኒ መሊሽካ ሸኸም ተብዝሓልና ኢልዎ
So the goat was like, whoa, my brother ship, why are you adding load to our journey even though we're tired?
ድሓን ፀኒሕና ንጥቀመሉ ኢና ኢልዎ ሽዑ ድዑል
And then the ship was like, don't worry about it. There's going to be a time that we're going to use it.
ሽዑ ተጓዒዞም ነዊሕ ከይዶም ደኺሞም ጠምዮም ሩሑቕ ከለዉ ኣብ መንገዲ ሩሑቕ ሓውር እዮም
And after walking for a long time, they are so tired, they're holding the fox head. They, like in far place, they saw a firewood.
ሽዑ ናብ ምስ ከዱ ኣብቲ ጥቕቁርን ምስ በሉ ሰለስተ ወኻርያ ድራር እንዳገበሩ ሪኦሞ
And then when they got close to the fireplace, they just got to 3 foxes, and then they were making dinner, and then they just ran to them.
ኢሎም ሩብ ኢሎም ኣትዮም ነትዮም ወኻርያ ማለት እዮም
And then they didn't even see them because it was so dark. They just ran to them like all of a sudden.
ሽዑ ከመይ ኣምሲኹም ምሳኹም ዶ ክንፅንበር ኢሎም ሓቲቶሞ
And then the sheep and the goat asked the fox, oh, how are you? Can we join you guys and eat from your dinner?
ሽዑ ወኻርያ ጥምት ኣቢሎም ሕራይ ኢሎም
And then the fox just looked at them. They were like, why are they asking us? But they said, okay.
ግን እዚ ድራር ምስ በላዓናዮ ንዓኹም ባ ክንበልዓኩም ኢና
But the fox said, however, you're gonna eat dinner with us, but we're gonna eat you after we eat dinner.
ሽዑ ጤል ኢሉ በጊዕ ግን ፀገም የለን ኢሎ
And then the goat, he got scared. He was like, oh my God. But the sheep was like, don't worry. Okay, we'll do that.
ሽዑ ድዑል እንታይ ኢሎም ጤል ሓወይ ንሕና ከዓ ድራርና ንብላ
And then the sheep was like, oh, my brother goat. Oh, let's get our thing from there.
ሽዑ እንታይ ኢሎ ድዑል ንጤል በል ትገጅፍ ርእሲ ወኻርያ ካብቲ ለቆታ ኣውፃዮ ኢሎ
And then so the sheep told the goat, take the head of the fox from that bag.
ሽዑ ፈሪዒ ስለዘሎ ኢሉ ናቲ ርእሲ ወኻርያ ኣውፅእ ኣቢሎ
And the goat, like scaredly, he grabbed the head of the fox from the bag.
No, እሲ ኮንኩን ኢለካ ካብኡ ዝዓቢ ዝፅብቕ ካልእ ኣሉ
And then the sheep was like, no, not that one. There is a bigger one over there. Get that one.
ሕራይ ሽዑ ወኻርያ ሰለስቲኦም ጥምት ኣቢሎም
And then the goat, shakingly, he was like, okay, and then he was trying to get it. And then the fox, they just got scared. They didn't know what was there, so they just looked at them.
ሽዑ ዋ ድዑልን ጤልን ዝተሸኪሞም ኢሎም ምስ ጠማቶም ሽዑ ሓደ ካብኦም ወኻርያ
And then the fox, they were just so surprised, like, how could the sheep and the goat like carry something as big as this? And then they just looked at the sheep and the goat.
ሽዑ ካብኦም እቲ ወኻርያ እንታይ ገይሩ እኹል ዕንጨይቲ ስለ ዘይብልና ኣነ ካልእ ዕንጨይቲ ከኣሪ ንበረኻ ከይደ ኢሉ ነቲ ሓደ ወኻርያ በረኻ ከይዱ ተመሊሱ
So one of the foxes, trying to get away from the situation, he said, oh, I'm going to get some wood from there. So he just left.
ሽዑ እቲ ሓደ ወኻርያ ከዓ እቲ ሓደ ወኻርያ እሞ ብዙሕ ዕንጨይቲ ኣኪቦ ኾኒ እሞ ኣነ ክሕግዞ ክኸይደ ኢሉ እቲ ሓደ ከዓ ከይዱ
And then the other fox, he said, oh, maybe he collected a lot of food, so let me go help him. And he ran away too.
ሽዑ እቲ ሓደ ንበይኑ ተሪፉ ፈሪዑ ኣነ ከዓ እንታይ ከም ዝኾኑ ደንጉዮምሲ በቃ እንታይ ዳ ኮይኖሞ ደንጉዮም ኣነ ከዓ በሉ ኮሪዮም ክኸይደ ኢሉ ሳልሳይ ከዓ ከይዱ
And then the third one got even more scarier because he's by himself. He said, oh, let me go check on them because they are late. Let me see what happened to them. And then he left.
شو دعلن تيلن ها كم زي زغل بهاد عبقيل عركي إلو شو عملتي.
And then the sheep and the goat got happy and they were like, ha ha ha, this is what I'm talking about.
شو تي سلستي مقبعت وزت أنا وقعت مالتي دعلن تيلن بالعمونة قعت.
And the food, it's called ga'at, it's like traditional porridge. Even though the fox were making for themselves, the goat and the sheep ate it by themselves.
شعود دعلن تيلن تأجيبهم الحرين تيلهم أوه حجي من الغش متكمتهم ورعنا سلزغلو تيل هوي نبزا قرب كل تيلات حاجة جزا نحقر إلهم نقرب حاجة جزا محبيرهم مالتي.
So after they ate their dinner and they were full, they talked to each other and they say, you know, you never know, they might come back to eat us, so we should help each other and get on top of the tree and sleep there.
شعوت يوم وخارم بتي زقبرو يحفيرهم واي دعلن تيلن سنعنا خرجمنا نعنا يمون ملت كنبرعهم علينا إلا مشروع سلست يوم لا تقول هذا النساء.
So the foxes, after walking a long way, they just realized they were ashamed. Like, why are we running from them? We should go back and eat them. So they came back to the place they were.
شعوت تمني صوم ريوم أو أبزيان هلول ما تقرب حدا خبتهم وخارم مالتي ريوم
So when they came back, they couldn't find them. They looked for them, and one of the foxes spotted them that it was in the tree, and he said, "Oh, here, they are over there."
شعو نزل سمعت فرح سلزنا بره ريم سبلو يلو كسي كوكوات أتصور نفسي كألن نبتع أبي وخارم دوب يلو أدي مالتي.
So the goat, because he was scared when he heard the foxes coming, he got so scared, and then all of a sudden he just fell from the tree.
شعو نزل أيو بجين كابدك تعمل قصدر بيلو حسو حبها أجها تبغى قبل حوي حزو لما تدعي لما نتنا تتقل أجها حزو أركبو حس كيو لما نتشعب واجراج تيوم سلست يوم وخاري حدي مم كيرو.
So when the sheep, he was sleeping, when he woke up, he just realized the situation, so he had to make up something. So he said, "Oh, here you go, you got it, hold it, go, he's over there, he's running, get him." So the fox, they didn't know what was happening, so they got scared and ran away.
كابزيا انتين مهار مالتي أب علم بلحن مستوعلن أقداس مهانو تمهرنا.
So what we learn from the story is, it's not whether you're big or strong, it's like you have to be wise and make something out of the situation. That's what we learn from this story.
So what questions do you have about the story? Yes, right there. How did the sheep get to be so smart?
I guess it's not whether you were born to be smart or not. It's like you have to make this situation. So there is not like you were smart or you were not smart. So we shouldn't limit ourselves to be like, oh, I'm dumb or I'm not smart enough. You just have to work on it and then go with the situation, I guess, go with the flow.
Yes. Thank you. Right there, what's the next question? Why did the fox run away?
Because they drank
Yeah, so when the sheep and the goat made up stuff, like they think something was happening, something bigger was there. So they just got scared, like taking the fact that it was dark and then they were scared before. So when they just made up like, oh, he's over there, catch him, something like that, they thought there was something there. So they got scared and ran away.
Good, thank you. Is there another question? Yes.
I see the language, the written characters for the whole family over a mile down the street that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to learn all of the languages from none, which one would be the one to start with? Which is more central to learn the other Eritrean, Amerindia languages written with the same alphabet?
I'll just repeat the question for the, of all of the languages in the Eritrean language family, which one, if you were going to start learning, which would be the most central to begin learning?
So in Eritrea, there is like 9 different tribes. So Tigrinya is like the most one spoken, and then I guess Arabic would be the second most, but Tigrinya is the most one that almost everybody uses, and then it's like the word the central government uses. So Tigrinya is the
In Eritrea?
Yes.
I mean in Oakland though, aren't there a lot of Ethiopians and...
Yeah, there is Amharic. For Ethiopian, it's Amharic too. So there is some words that are similar, but they kind of are different. So Tigrinya and Amharic. So Amharic is for Ethiopia, and then Tigrinya is for Eritrea.
We are from Eritrea, so only we speak Tigrinya, we don't speak Amharic.
Is it harder for an Amharic speaker to learn Tigrinya or a Tigrinya speaker to learn Amharic?
The people who speak Amharic is hard to learn Tigrinya. The people who speak Tigrinya is easy to learn Amharic.
Oh, start with it. Start with that one.
Yeah, because like we have some words that are like we sound it from the mouth, like h or like something like that.
Yeah.
So the Amharic don't use that.
Mhm.
So I guess that might be one of the reasons that it might be hard.
Thank you.
Was there one more question in the back there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, she just want to clarify, like, the alphabets, we use the same. Amharic and Tigrinya, we use the same alphabet, and we write it the same. It's just different. Like, to say sheep, for example, is different in Tigrinya versus Amharic, but we use the same alphabets.
Wait, okay. And I think there's actually one more question right there. Is that, am I right? With the red hat on? Yes, you? Did you have a question? No, okay. All right, a round of applause, please. And this is going to be our final story for the afternoon. I'd like to welcome Rasidatu Konate.
First, it's okay for us to take mics out? Sure.
Hi everyone, my name is Rasidatu Konate, but I go by Rasi for simplicity and whatever. But yeah, I'm from Burkina Faso. It's a tiny country in West Africa, and the story I'm gonna tell you today is in Dafi. It's the language of my father, because my mom had another language. There were lots of languages, but this one is in Dafi. Well, the language is also known as Marka, mostly, but at home we call it Dafi, and that's what I speak when I'm in my house. Well, so today the story is about a family. So it's a man, and he has two wives, right? But two very different wives. One of them is really beautiful, and in the story, when I talk about her, I usually do king. So every time I do that, I refer to the beautiful woman. He also has another woman who is not really, well, she's less beautiful, but she really has a really good heart. She's a very nice person. She's really, really kind to everyone. So the beautiful one is very mean, but yeah, it's just. Okay, so basically the story would just take us along how each of them behaves and like what happens to each of them at the end. So while I tell the story, I would need your help for sometimes, because like I got the story from my grandmother as well. I mean, it's quite popular in there, but yeah. So when I was a kid, usually when I used to visit the village after dinner, also we'll just gather around her and she would tell us stories. So every time before starting a story, she would say, ziring, ziring, and we will reply, ziring. So I'll need your help. Every time I say ziring, ziring, just say ziring. Ziring, ziring. Ziring, ziring. Ziring. Great. Something else. So I'm telling the story as my grandmother. So I'll be playing many roles at the same time, right? So at some point I'll be the narrator, at some point I'll be the ugly woman. There are other characters as well, but I won't really play them. I'll just be the narrator while talking about them, right? What else do I need to tell you? Oh, okay. There is this song that I will repeat quite a lot of times in the story, and it goes like Furumuso, Furumuso ngeke yemna, Furumuso, Furumuso ngeke yemna, and basically it just means married woman, like be careful, control yourself, self-regulate basically. So I'll be saying that a lot in the story. So I'm going to tell you the story, and then at the end I'll give you a more detailed summary of what the story is about. Right? Okay. Ziring ziring. Ziring ziring. Ziring ziring. Biye lomba biye nun so dialo ye. Ah, biye lomba ye. Biye nun so dialo ye. Masikana keyere majuguye. Biye siniya la kariye. Masikana keyere majuguye. Biye siniya la kariye. Ziring ziring. Ziring ziring. Londo. Che. Muso mo flat yabe. Nene muso chireye. E chani. Wa. Nina nyadoye. Ha. Nina peka yeti beke nyapoka. Che. Ha. Na wira. Ki. E tashe ne kuke che. Chani sa. Haya. Muso chiresa. Ah. Akwai kiezu de. Amanyitan shiru. E yene dron. Che ye makotara. Ni che wira dron longo lo. Amuso chani. Amakore nana. Ayam nanye. E pemi vebye. E asama. Ziring ziring. Ziring ziring. Muso chani sa. Apona zwiego. Wow! Why? Nkwe moshi ya ede. Pa! Che yebe. Eko pengo peng ayazema. Ero pengo shi. Ako muso kireka kwireka boluko e cheneka tuso. Ah, ezo ye, ha? Inyake bome, e kan pisan to cherike. Ishia. Ah! Ziring ziring. Ziring ziring. E muso chanisa kawiri. Ki. Kata bishi bobabe. Kofo bishi boba ka bisi jema. Na wana so, kata jikiema ura, che muso kireka aboluko. Ako pesa. Ha? Muso ni benkira. Kofo muso ka boluko. Ah! Furumuso ngeke yemna. Furumuso ngeke yemna. Ziring ziring. Haya. Anya malobi te sa. Awana so. Amenya malo kabishi mla mnyanyewa. Wochira sa awana so. Ani bishi din. Kamo chena foye. Kaka miji kiema. Ano twa yetai. Miti chani kata sina musoma. Koji chema. Che tosa. Kota yebo. Keshisa. Azoti manjira. Ama mwini kiwari. Aro ni bishi nyam yoso saka blend weni. Ah! Achata nesa kata bishiche. Awana so sisa. Ani bishi don. Kache ache kadon kacha sina muso kadon. Kadon sa akala. Awira somo. Aya lompe mikirara. Whoa. No, even kwe mashi. Ye, mkwe moshaye. Pa, awira sa. Aye. Abe, benjirana. Oui. Mpanjero anare. Na chibi sa. China pe ku bui. Wo, benjirera. Ebe, eti muso ide. Tabo mantelon. Ibi. Muso yesa ne kashi amake. Hey. Sawe kate kampe wale sawe re danare. Nga mbatewa. Sokumba mbatewa. Diana more cansana, longoro esa neza kataware esa went na chekwa na rekana tewa cheye apesa boma nyelo ne keta boma ebi muzumo kuta charita shirusa achini tura ari rabe cheka muso kire kwira ayere anori kwi keshisa bo ma keshira akin wo vie ban ja ay ike pana e panye mo kuta ma kesha uri nyine ma ta wisa donga chata shirusa awirare achini tare shikumoso ne kashi karina cheku aba ini sheni miche aba iri sheka langu aviere wi tan shirusa ekozonka benfo wore mnaya fo moma pesenkira beni be kache mozui ha benna ena bende zema ke che mozu ebe achata la che tara acheni twa moso moche makutama che ana musota che katuna yoisa nazukanshi na ya zirin mikase e burukina ngojamato e burukina atole burkina be jamana deule senike kanyo namake kanyo manaye yala bolo moya ye sababu ye zirin thank you. Okay, now I can give you the sort of detailed summary. So, basically, the man had 2 wives, right? So, as I said, one of them was really beautiful, and the other one was not as beautiful. So, the beautiful one was really mean, and she just wanted to have her husband for her alone, right? So, she decided to go and see a traditional practitioner so that she can get charms for her husband. And she wanted to do that so that her husband can chase away the other woman who was not that beautiful and she would stay alone, right? So when she went to see the traditional practitioner, she was so happy because she was already seeing herself being alone in the house, getting to do whatever she wanted. So she didn't listen very carefully to the instructions the practitioner gave her. So when she got home, she mixed up the portion she was supposed to do. So what she was supposed to keep, she gave it to her husband, and then gave her husband to her co-spouse. So she just messed up everything. So when she went to bed and then she woke up the next morning, she found that half of her body was gone. So now she was just like a half woman jumping about like that, yeah. So when her husband saw that she was now just half a person, he kind of started now seeing her as a really ugly person. Not necessarily because she was like half, so it's not really about her appearance, but just that the fact that she makes up the portions as well made her husband realize that she's a really mean person inside, that she just does mean things to people, she doesn't like anybody, she just thinks of herself and she's really selfish. So her husband just started seeing all the bad things that are there about her. So he started disliking her, and then because of the portions again, he was able now to see the woman who was not as beautiful as a really, really kind person. And she just became beautiful because she has a really beautiful heart, right? So the husband now started liking the other woman more and rather chased the other one for just being mean to the others and wanting to just do something bad to the whole family. So the moral of the story is it's not really about like cause or family. It's just like a community thing, right? So Burkina Faso is called, it's like the land of upright people, right? And like solidarity is one of our dearest values, if I can say. So like we always say that it's always nice, I mean it's always good to be nice to other people, because when you do good to others, you receive good as well. So if you do something bad to somebody else, that bad thing is gonna come back to yourself. So it's just better to be nice to others and others will also be nice to you. So yeah, thank you.
What questions do you have for Rusty about the story? Yes, back there. What kind of woman was your grandmother?
Okay, so my grandmother was like, she was, I would say, the typical woman in, okay, of her age, of course, that is still found in like, even nowadays in like my village. So she has, okay, her husband had many wives, right? And then she herself had a lot of kids. So she's just, I guess she was really just a housewife. Basically all her, like whole life, she just worked in the house, and she was in the village also. So in the house, and then helping with the kids and cooking and all that stuff. So I guess she got those stories as well from her grandmother, who were exactly like her. So she's just literally the typical grandmother we find in villages in Burkina Faso now. So she's just a repertory of like, yeah, lessons and stories. So even now, I still like to listen to her sometimes when I go. Yeah.
Thank you. What else? Any other questions that you have? Yes, right here.
You were moving around so much and so dramatic. When your grandmother told you the story, was she the same way?
Was your grandmother also as dramatic when she would tell the stories?
Except from moving, I would say yes. Because my grandmother would say the story while she was sitting, because we're all like just around her. But like for the crying, she would do it. For the singing, she would do it. Even though she had a much better voice than mine, but yeah. But she was just as me, but just that she would be sitting while telling the story. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Is there one more question? Yes, right here. Why do we have to say zirin zirin while you're telling the story?
Yeah. So zirin zirin, it's sort of a signal before you start the story to tell, like to sort of be like story time, listen to me, it's the story time, right? And then when you say it during the story, it's just to give a break. Okay, maybe it's different for you because you don't originally understand what I say, but when she says it, she says zirin zirin in the story so that we can like pause, think about what she was saying before she can continue. But yeah, thank you.
Great question. Yes, one more right here. What is the translation of the song?
Okay, there's one song, I translated one of the songs. The song I started with is Bielombae. Okay, that one basically says, today is a great day. My grandma, she was a very happy person, so she all like, it's just a happy song to say today is a great day. Come, we are going to party. Party meaning just like literally sitting, eating, having fun together. Not like, yeah, but but yeah. So basically, that's the first song was that, and then the last song is sort of it's basically a song to honor the people of Burkina Faso. Because at some point, I don't know if you heard, but like there was some parts where I say Burkina Bay, Nika say Burkina. Yeah, the country is Burkina Faso, but sometimes we just call it Burkina. So the song basically says, if you come to Burkina Faso, you will find really nice people who love each other, work for each other, and stand up for each other, kind of stay together, basically togetherness. Yeah, that's what the song was about.
Thank you. Can we have another round of applause for Rasidatri?
Thank you.
And now one more, 6 times as big for all of our storytellers. That was exactly 6 times. That was fantastic. Great job. Now we're going to have a little panel. Actually, it's just going to be one question, and we're going to hear from 3 of our language champions. So when we talk about a language champion, we're talking about people who are putting a lot of work and creativity and innovation into creating space for their treasure languages to thrive. I think we have Feven. Great, okay, so Feven, Canyon, who you haven't met, Kumukawi, and Tan. Wonderful. Would all four of you come up here and we'll ask you just a little bit about what you're hoping for in the work that you do. So actually, maybe we could start by just asking you to reintroduce yourselves, or in Kenyan, in your case, to introduce yourself, and also tell us where your language is spoken, and then I'll ask you the question.
Mishmi Kuhis, Kangakat Kenyan. I am Kosanon, Ohlone, and Chumash. The original language spoken by my ancestors was spoken right here along Central Coast of California, specifically right in the South Santa Clara, North Monterey Bay area territories. This is Ohlone territory, and there are many California Native Ohlone peoples still very present here. So we are still here, so welcome to Ohlone territory. And so, quick introduction, my name is Canyon Sayers Roos, also known as Coyote Woman. And I am the daughter of a tribal leader who is the tribal chairwoman of Indian Canyon, the only federally recognized sovereign Indian country between Sonoma and Santa Barbara, right here in the Coastal Bay Area territories. And so with that, she worked really hard to get the land back, and my being her daughter, I focus my work on advocacy for truth and history, language revitalization, ethnobotanical restoration, advocacy of art, and just, I do a lot, so I don't know what I am. I'm just an artist. So,
I kind of lost track of what I was supposed to say. Oh, okay. My name is Ann Taylor. My language is Mian, and I speak it at home, but it's spoken around Southeast Asia.
Hello, my name is Seven, and our language Tigrinya is spoken in Eritrea, but there is a lot of Eritrean communities like in Oakland and San Francisco.
Aloha mai kako o kau'i parauto ko'i noa ai ke manawa o lelo kako I ko uhale vale no. Aloha, I'm kau'i parauto, and right now it's only spoken in our home.
So the question that we're hoping to ask all four of you, and I think Kenyon, if you wouldn't mind starting, we could start with you and then come down the line. If the whole, not just these people, but the whole Oakland community in the sort of environs were listening with an open heart, really listening, what would you tell them about how the culture needs to shift in order for all of these treasure languages to be able to thrive? So what shift does the community need for these languages to be able to live and thrive?
Decolonization. That's our one word. Decolonize your way of thought. Re-indigenize your way of thinking. And we are all indigenous people of this earth, but when we reconnect ourselves with our roots, and sometimes it can be our bloodline roots and or our communal roots. Some of us are detached and different and wandering and have many different conflicting roots. I myself am very aligned with who it is that I know I am, believe I am, and thoroughly encompass my being, as in I'm a California native and I identify with where it is I stand on. But what my mother always shares is when you're not in the territory that you consider your home or where your family and your roots truly are, when you're visiting other territories, it is a beautiful thing to acknowledge the original people of that territory. So that being said, my mother would offer tobacco, and she makes an offering to the earth. She says, ancestors on whose land I'm on, honor my words and actions so that they can be true with where it is, or they can be true and focus on positive direction with where it is that I'm standing, to honor the ancestors whose lands that I am on. And that just means when she is traveling to different territories, because she speaks for our community, but that's not for everybody. And a lot of people call upon her to speak for like the opening blessing and opportunity to acknowledge original peoples of the territory, but she is so very humble with where it is she walks, to walk lightly. And so what I say is decolonization to re-indigenize the way we think. A lot of colonized people and the colonized entitled privileged mentality has us walking in saying, this is mine, I'm entitled to this, you need to speak English, you need that, you need it. And instead, just walk with humility and question why we do, say, and act around the things that we do. At any point in our life, we are ignorant of new information. It is what we do with that information once it's presented in our life. We can continue to remain ignorant, we can continue to not acknowledge it, or we can attempt to bring it into our life and allow it to amend our actions. And so that's what the work I've been doing is decolonization, decolonize your way of thought and your mind. So here in the Bay Area, acknowledge original peoples of the territory, acknowledge your community. Sometimes we're like, why can't they do that? Well, what can you do when it comes to the things that you see? When you see trash, why can't they pick it up? This city is dirty. Why don't you? Things like that, that eliminate that entitled mentality, that privilege, and just humble yourself and just think about decolonization. What is colonization? And so that's my mentality and attitude towards if we're going to go out and connect, how can people align themselves? Because you can do that with anyone, any group of people, any language, any community, any age group, any mentality, to think about that.
I think for my perspective, it's really different from what she previously just stated, because I'm a first-generation refugee. I was born in a refugee camp, and so coming here as a refugee, we were the mindset. We wanted to buy into the Western culture. So it's like, learn English, learn the Western ways, learn to be normal, fit in. So I see the need for letting go of that and letting go of what is the status quo. As a therapist and a clinician, I would say let go of judgment of anything that you have of yourself and other people, and just accepting. Just being mindful of your space and being okay with it. I think in merging both of the cultures and being bicultural and all that stuff, just understanding that we don't need to be different to be accepted, or we don't need to change ourselves to be accepted. When I was working at Bank of America as a teller, we had a lot of, I was working at the Richmond branch in Richmond, California, and we had a lot of Latino population, or Hispanic, Mexican Americans, or first generation Mexicans. And they would come in, and there were a lot of elders who, they didn't learn English, so they would only want to engage with other Spanish-speaking tellers. And I started to pick up Spanish. I would say, ¿Qué necesita hacer?, and start picking up these basic things, and they really appreciated that. So I had another teller that says, well, they're in the US, why don't they just learn English, and make it easier? And it's not really about that, it's about acceptance. And I know for myself, my mom's monolingual, so I think just letting go of what is normal and what's the status quo would be really important, and just embracing ourselves and other people and integrating parts of our identity, whether you come from many different heritage or just one, which is not true, it's not possible.
So for me, when I immigrated here 5 years ago, so I was 14 when I came here. So we know a little bit of English, but just the system of how America worked, it was just so different from where I lived. So, but one hand, like since I grew up in Eritrea until I was 14, I didn't want to give that up. And when I was coming here, there was a lot of people saying, like, when people come to America and they go back home, like they lose their language, their culture, so it would be like a culture clash when they go back. So everybody kept telling me before I came here, like, don't forget your language, don't forget your culture. So like, when I came here, that's what helped me. But I know a lot of people like that try to fit in, like try to learn English, act the way that we don't act, like different ways, or like fit in here. So like, what I would say is, like, like don't forget who you are. So like, some people would even be living like two different lives. So back at home, they would be like Eritrean and then live differently, eat differently, and then but when they go out, they're just like new, totally different person. So like by helping them, so like for example, have something in school. So I know in my high school we used to have like a spirit week where we do different things. Like there is twin day, pajama day, something like that. So it would be like a culture day would be one of them, like to help like people from other country feel comfortable who they are. Like don't try to be something else. Like you are who you are. Like you came from different place. So it doesn't mean different, doesn't mean bad. So like I think that could help us like be one person instead of having two different sides.
I think I might be the oldest person standing up here right now. My perspective is a little different. So first and foremost, I would say know your place. First and foremost. As guests of wherever we are, it is important for you to know that you are a guest. So it's pretty much, what Canyon is saying is that we're in Olone, and it was actually something that took me a while to learn, living outside of Hawaii. I've been here for almost 20 years, and I'm very connected to the Hawaiian community, very connected to the Pacific Islander community. And for a long time, that was my focus, and I didn't, my mind wasn't open enough to understand where I was, that I was not in Hawaii anymore, that I had to not assimilate, but learn what my place was, and learn how to be a guest in the place that I'm at. So wherever we go, wherever I'm at, like Canyon says, is being aware of where we're at, and to be respectful of that. The second thing I would say, very, very important, is embrace who you are. Embrace the languages or the language of your people. Before you can try to embrace somebody else's language, because the language, at least for me, is everything that we are. So when I'm hearing people, even my own people, speaking our language and being very, the word is kapulu, being sloppy, it's insulting. And I know that the intention is not to insult, but I think that it comes off that way because you haven't embraced who you are in your space, to be respectful of somebody else's culture that you're learning. So for me in the Bay Area, what everybody knows of Hawaiian is pretty much what you see at the festivals or hula. And a lot of times people think Tahitian and hula are the same. Not even. And you're laughing. Sometimes I'll get people that ask me, oh, do you do the dances with the drums? Which drums? You want the Tahitian drums, fast shaking hips, or do you want the hula drums, which are very sacred to us in our culture? Two very different things. The Samoan culture has drums, the Tongan culture, our Pacific Island cultures have a lot of drums. It's not the same. So for me, it would be to again, know your place, to be respectful of that place, and to learn your culture before trying to embrace somebody else's. And that is what I teach my daughter, that is what we're teaching my granddaughter. And I'm one of those people that I don't teach Tahitian in my hula group because I'm not Tahitian. That is not for me to teach. I teach hula. I teach Hawaiian. I teach what has been taught to me. So it's very easy, you know, that whole colonization, wherever we're at, you can do whatever you want to do. I can be Hawaiian today. I can be Italian tomorrow. I can be Japanese. But without having that understanding, one of the things that is always posed to me, why do you teach non-Hawaiians hula? Why do you teach non-Hawaiians the language? Because in our culture, when you become that kumu, when you become the source, then your students can no longer play the ignorant card. They now have somebody that they're accountable to. So when I choose to teach people that are not Hawaiian, then I take on the responsibility of being your source. So if you go out and do something that is not culturally appropriate, and you get the question, who's your kumu? Your response, if I'm your kumu, is kumu kau'i. I can guarantee you that I will get a call. And they'll say, kumu kau'i, we just saw your student, blah, 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 blah. I'll be like, okay. I just got a call. Okay? But that's where accountability comes in for me, on my part. So again, I just say, be respectful of where you're at, and be proud of who you are. And I'm not just Hawaiian, my granddaughter is 5'8" Mexican. So we're hoping that she's gonna be learning her language as well. And that's important. So that's me, mahalo.
Wow, can we have another round of applause for our panel? So this is this idea of language champions. So you see these different roles and the different ways that these treasured languages are existing in Oakland. Now, just to close this part of our afternoon together, which is the storytelling and the panel, then we're gonna have a half-hour break where you can mingle, talk to the storytellers, especially talk to each other, and then we'll start the Conversation Cafe, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But for now, I'd like to ask if you all four would stay here, and if our storytellers and interpreters who are not on stage to also come on stage, if you could. Audrey, Rasidatu, Smret, Faye. Now, for everybody in the audience, I'm gonna ask you to just think to yourself, what is something that how am I feeling right now? What is something that I've learned, that I've gained, how I've changed? What has happened for you in the last 2 hours? And just think of that, and then see if you can think of, just like how we started, think if you can think of a gesture or a pose that would express how you're feeling right now. So it might be that you might feel your heart. Maybe it's your head, huh? Or maybe you get what I'm saying? So you're gonna have a pose. And then I'll ask you all to stand up and just take that pose to give something back to all of our speakers and storytellers. Do you have any questions? Okay, so think of your pose. I'll just give you maybe 10 seconds. All standing? Yeah. I think there's quite a few pictures. You need to get them back. Yeah. Extraordinary. All right, now let's have everyone. If you cannot stand, if you're not comfortable standing, it's okay to do it from your seat. But we'd like to have most people standing. And then I'm going to count to 3, and you just take that shape and you give this back to our storytellers. And then kind of give it a few seconds, give it 3 or 4 seconds, and then we can give them a huge round of applause. Okay? 1, 2, 3.